Hi guys, thanks for tuning into the channel today. Just thought today I'd talk to you about the red chrome I bought, and I bought this bike roughly about 2 months ago at a cost of $8,800. So in other words, the chromes are right up at the top of their range price, or $800 more in the example if you bought the halcyon colours. Now I don't really know whether I think that on today's market a chrome is really worth $800 more, considering all you're getting is front and rear chroming on the mudguards and a bit on the tank, but apart from that, you know, here in Australia that's what you get charged the extra $800 for. I think in the old days when you look at a Classic 500, when you jump from the stock up to a chrome, it was only going to cost you something like, you know, in those days around about $500. And not only that, you got the side covers and the boxes at the side chrome too, so you know, 4 additional items compared to it. So you know, as it is now, I think Enfield is exploiting the prices a bit compared to what they started off with, which was a good value for money bike. And if you take in the early days of the 500s, well, not only did you get the bike for that sort of price, you also got a spare accessory kit for free, and that consisted of usually 2 tubes, spanners, cables, can of paint, everything like that as a complimentary packet come in. So now that they've got up into it, you know, what has really changed? Well, I suppose the main thing has changed with the new Classic 350 Reborn compared to the old days of the Classic 500. The new 350 is a far more reliable bike, and it really doesn't need those accessories or the gifts what they threw along as the in the purchase pack. So you know what I found to date, you know, for example, this red chrome of mine, like I said, about it 2 months exactly now, and by the time, you know, like all things, you get on the end, you decide whether it's a cheaper bike to buy or not. You got to throw a few accessories on it. So you know, by the time I put on the touring mirrors, touring seats, spring kit, well, the rear rack's not fitted, but I got one there. Sump guard, I haven't fitted that either yet, but it's sitting there. And the saddlebags, well, by that time the price on this particular bike has jumped to 10 grand. So but what I can tell you, you know, even though the price is up around that $10,000 mark for what it is, to date in the 2 months period I've put 1,300 kilometres roughly on the bike. And you know, the Halcyon Grey, when they come out in 2022, and you look at this 23 model red chrome, if this would have been a Classic 500, there would have been, during that period of 18 months you could say, or a little bit longer, I know, pushing close on 2 years, there would be quite a few changes on the bike that if you hadn't gone through different bikes, you wouldn't notice. You just look at one and say, oh yeah, that looks the same as the other. But Enfield, on its way on those models, went back in and, you know, did little, like whether it was upgraded bolts, different sort of thing here, different bracket there. But looking over the 2022 model Halcyon Grey compared to a red chrome at 2023, believe it or not, the only thing I could notice had it improved, or if you'd called it improvement, on the 2022 toolkit, it sort of folded out into a flat pack and then you rolled it back up and put it in. And on the 23 model, it's more like a compact version where you just poke the tools into the area and just flip the cover down. And at this stage, that's the only thing I could notice had happened. So what does that say? Well, to me that means that they think the bikes are that good, they don't have to touch anything on them. And my thoughts are, they are as good as what they look, and they're a highly reliable bike. Now this one here, compared to where I was a little bit more conservative when I bought the Halcyon Grey. I remember the Halcyon Grey, I think I did an oil and filter change about 3 times in the first 500 k's. Like I said, this red one, it's done 1,300 and I've done absolutely nothing on that side. And I'm just curious if I would ride it from scratch right up to 1,500 kilometres, then do an oil and filter change, just see what the oil and filter like, because I believe the innards of the new Classic 350s are as good as what you'd expect if you had bought a Honda, Kawasaki or Suzuki or any of the top range, well, supposedly Jet bikes, which aren't really, you know, they come from different parts of the world, but you know, the quality they put them together. So, you know, looking back now, I always look at it from 2019 or a bit earlier than that, when they brought out the 650 Interceptor. you know, that was a big change of play for Royal Enfield, and that's where they improved how well they put the motors together and how well they go. So on this one here now, for example, this red chrome at 1300 kilometres, I've not even adjusted the chain. And I remember the old days when I had 500s, I'd have to adjust the chain on those maybe 3 times by the time I got 500 kilometres or more. But you have to take into account that everything's good about the Enfields now, and they do a real, you know, much better job putting them together, and they use a little bit more quality item like chains and things like that compared to the old days. So, you know, if you're on the fence there and you're thinking to yourself, what are they like? Well, I really think they're really good bikes, and for the money, and you get a lot of pleasure out of them. They look good, they run well. You know, there's one here now, I run it along there at 100 kilometres an hour. Like I said, I'm going to drop the oil now in about 200 kilometres, but the only thing I did go in at 500 kilometres and lift the lid off it and check the valves, and one of them was a bit tight. I think it was the inlet, I think. Anyway, doesn't matter. The fact is it's running all right, and I haven't gone any further with it as far as that goes. But anything else on the bike, you know, I just haven't touched anything else. Haven't gone over the bike, see if I could tighten anything on it, because, you know, these newer breeder Enfields, they use a bit of Loctite on them now compared to the old days. And besides, there's not much shake or anything like that in a Classic 350. It's a fairly smooth bike, and you know, I think out along the road there, I find that they run along well, they handle well. Oh, the only thing I might put in it later on, just for, and it worked pretty good on the Halcyon Blue, I did put slime in the Halcyon Blue for you know, when I was doing a little bit off-road work on it. Well, it did a fair bit of off-road work, and I put slime in the tubes, and they seem to have worked all right. So you know, in 13,000 kilometres, I never had any issues there, and I might swing over and put a bit of slime in this red one there and see how that goes. So the only other thing that's mainly happening on the channel is, I think I'd be around about 2 or 3 weeks away from getting that Scrambler, Triumph Scrambler 400X or X400, whichever way you look at it. So I'll be contacting the dealer next week and just asking when he expects that in, but they did say early January, so I'll be keen to get out and give it a bit of a run. Hopefully do a bit of content there. If you ask me how things are going in all areas, things are going all right in all areas, except I was a bit disappointed on the Classic 500 hints and tricks, ones I was putting together. I think I've put 4 clips up at the moment, and each clip I put up, I ask people who look at it, give it a thumbs up or leave a comment to see if I can get those clips up into the search engines. But, you know, I'm virtually talking on deaf ears, because very few people went to the trouble to do it, and unless I can get a good run of people to hit that like button, there's no way I can get it up into it. So I don't know, I may give it just one more clip on that one and then call it quits. So that's what's most likely is going to happen on that one, because I feel if I can't get any cooperation from the people who look at it, and I don't know why, but the clips deserve more than 150 looks or something to that effect if you've got a 500. But I don't know whether people just come over and look at my channel and I don't know, whether they're jealous people to start off with and look at the channel and just don't want to give it a thumbs up. It's just hard to say, but I really know what I really think about the idea, but I can't put it on here because they'll pull me down. So but apart from that, I think if you get back to the stage and there's nothing coming up on the Classic 500 as far as tips and tricks, and we were getting into the serious ones, just about into the we've gone through the early run of it, well, I suppose you can only blame yourself when you go back and there's nothing there, because I was always made up my mind from when I first put up the first clip on that if nothing happened by the time I hit 5, I was going to pull all clips down and call that one done and dusted and move on. So apart from that, I think the biggest thing on my mind at the moment will be moving into the Triumph X400, and I'll see how that idea goes. I'm only a few weeks away from that. But if you're on the fence and you don't like Triumphs, it doesn't matter much about that, but if you do like Classic 350, well, you can always leave a comment there to tell me what you think about the idea if you want to see any more content on that one. and I'll see if I can accommodate you on that side there too. So once again, thanks for tuning in, taking a look. Hope you found this interesting, and more importantly, these Classic 350 Reborns are really nice bikes. So if you're on the fence there in Christmas and you're thinking, oh, you might be able to get onto one new, or you can get one at second hand at a good price, my recommendation is go out and buy one, because it'll be money well spent and you'll get a lot of pleasure out of that bike compared to other bikes, and you'll get a lot of looks and you'll get a lot of comments. And believe it or not, I think out of all the Enfields I've ever owned, this red chrome gets more comments than any other one I've ever had, believe it or not. So that's one thing. I was out the other day and I pulled up at the butcher shop and the bloke yelled out, yo! So I don't know whether there was a truck coming behind me or not, or whether he was just being friendly, but you know, I've had a few people sort of comment on that, and I don't know what's the attraction. I think it could be just because it's got a red chrome tank compared to the other one. Believe it or not, the Halcyon Grey never got anywhere near as much interest as what this red chrome, and I really don't know why, but you know, I think when people see chrome bikes they just think old school. That's the only thing I can think of in that one. So we'll see what happens that way. So I haven't put out a video for a while because, you know, even on this channel we're looking at now, the view rate's been down fairly low, or comments have been fairly poor too, so you know, everything's virtually going, you would almost say, downhill, or on this one. But you know, here I am trying to climb my way back up out of the gutter, get back on the side road, get up onto the bike and have another crack at it. So you know, if you get the urge and you want to cooperate and say to yourself, yeah, I'll give him a thumbs up and I'll give him a comment and try to get things moving in that line, that would be appreciated. Well, and if you don't want to, well, no harm done there either, because I can't get out there and force you to figure where you're going to stick your finger. So apart from that, we'll catch up with you at a later date, and cheers for now.